Governor Stitt tells OU education students that Oklahoma teachers may not need a raise. And wait till you hear about what he said about why. The student court grants new rights to Oklahoma tribes and what to expect weather-wise for the highly anticipated weekend in Dallas. This is OU Nightly. Thanks for watching OU Nightly. I'm Parker Abels.
And I'm Cameron Joyner. We begin tonight with new information on the education crisis here in Oklahoma. OU education students were among hundreds of Oklahomans invited to a Zoom with Governor Kevin Stitt today. The hot button issue of teacher pay came up, among others. OU Nightly's Olivia Daig has more information, and she's coming to us live at Rainbow College of Education. Olivia, what can you tell us?
Cameron, today I spoke with Daniel Hamlin. He's a professor of OU at OU, of the director of education policy, and the director of research for Thrive, which is an organization for education research that started at OU Tulsa campus and continues to help the state. Hamlin was the moderator for the event and asked Stitt questions regarding teacher pay and shortages, school choice, and education savings accounts, among other issues. Students and the general public wrote in with their questions, and unsurprisingly, lots of questions came up about teacher pay.
You know, my plan is to talk right away about teacher compensation. So I think that's a legit issue. It's a big policy issue because, as I mentioned, there's teacher shortages. Enrollments in teacher prep programs like ours at OU are on, they're declining.
I attended this session today, and Stitt says he wants to support teachers and mentioned that Oklahoma is one of the first states to offer a reward of 6 figures for some teachers, but for most, the starting pay is starting out around $38,000. Now, Stitt said that this pay is still lower than he thinks teachers deserve, but says that we need to consider the cost of living and the market for teachers in the state. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Olivia. Another hot button issue with the election just 5 weeks away. The race is on to get more people registered to vote. Here's the twist, though. It's OU Texas week, and now the football teams aren't the only ones going head-to-head. OU Student Government Association is collaborating with OU Votes, a nonpartisan voting group, to get more students registered to vote. And to keep the rivalry going, UT's student government is doing the same thing in Austin to see which university can come out with the highest number of newly registered voters.
Terms here in Oklahoma, especially with 2 senators on the ballot, a governor for re-election, and several other very, very important races spanning from city council races to state offices. It's so important that students not only educate themselves but also get registered to vote before the deadline, which is October 14th.
The final day to register to vote and have it count towards the OU Texas competition is this Friday, October 7th.
Well, now there's a new twist in the ongoing controversy surrounding the Castro Huerta case. Now, tribes have regained some of that power to prosecute some non-native people, but only for certain crimes. OU Nightly reporter Pepper Papura is live outside the Cleveland County Courthouse with details about who exactly has the right to prosecute. Pepper?
Cameron, Parker, until now, prosecution power for people who commit crimes against Native Americans have been coming to courts like this one to be tried for their crimes. Now that prosecution power is being sent back to the tribes. Some missing, some murdered, and some still unknown. Indigenous people are facing what they call an epidemic of loss.
We're very few, but we're being murdered at a higher rate than anybody else. Why?
More than 600 cases are counted by the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples Oklahoma chapters, looking for their loved ones. But if they found that the person responsible for the crime wasn't Native, it was up to the state's courts to give their families justice, not the tribes.
If any non-Native commits an offense within tribal jurisdiction, tribal land, we can't prosecute them. and then it'll get turned over to our county courts, which more times than I want to count will get swept underneath the rug.
An updated version of the Violence Against Women Act is giving tribes some of that power back. Tribal courts can file charges for crimes like sexual abuse, child abuse, sex trafficking, stalking, and dating violence committed by non-natives when tribal citizens are the victims.
When it goes to county court, they usually just get a slap on the wrist. So, families, victims, they don't get no justice. And with us being able to do that here in our court, I mean, we want to do our best to provide justice to everyone.
The new law is another change in jurisdiction, further complicating things for both the tribes and the state. The Iowa tribe is currently working to update their systems to reflect the new law. Live at the Cleveland County Courthouse, I'm Pepper Papura, OU Nightly.
Thanks, Pepper. Moving into some national news, tensions are rising between the U.S. and South Korea after military demonstrations by North Korea. Zoe Watson joins us with that story and the latest headlines from around the world. Zoe?
Thanks, Parker. On Tuesday, North Korea fired a test missile over Japan without any warning. In response, the U.S. and South Korea conducted missile and bombing exercises. The two countries fired test missiles off of the east coast of the Korean peninsula. The U.S. and its allies are showing a sign of force if ever needed to strike back. Later on today, there will be a United Nations Security Council public hearing to discuss North Korea. Gas prices may soon be back on the rise. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, also known as OPEC+, plans to slash production by 2 million barrels a day starting in November. It's the biggest cut since the start of the pandemic. Experts fear gas prices will increase over the winter months due to the cut in production. After the news, crude oil and gasoline stock futures rose around 2%. And new data from the Treasury Department shows the government went on a borrowing spree during the COVID-19 pandemic to keep the U.S. economy moving. The national debt surpassed $31 trillion on Monday. Since 2020, the U.S. has added $8 trillion to the national debt. U.S. economists say this could indicate a problem for the future, but tackling inflation is of high concern right now. And SpaceX and NASA launched a crew of astronauts from across the world on a trip to the International Space Station today. The spacecraft is set to dock Thursday evening. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Zoe. Now we have more following the devastation in Florida just 1 week ago. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden toured the destruction that Hurricane Ian left behind. Biden met with Governor Ron DeSantis, local officials, residents, and small business owners in some of the hardest hit areas. More than 100 people were killed by Hurricane Ian, and many have lost their homes.
Teams have knocked on nearly 70,000 doors and rescued over 3,800 people.
But a small bit of good news. Residents trying to get onto Pine Island will be able to use the road that was damaged by the storm days ahead of schedule. And Biden has extended the federal disaster declaration for Florida, adding another 30 days of aid to help Floridians on the long road to rebuild and recover.
Our thoughts are with the recovery efforts happening in Florida right now, but back here in Norman, we're dealing with a devastating drought, and Colton Williams is here to tell us more. Colton, we're in desperate need of some rain, aren't we?
Yeah, that's no kidding, Parker. We're dealing with some record-breaking stretches of dry air right now. We're looking back to as far back as the Dust Bowl to see a stretch that's been this dry. Now here in Oklahoma City, now been a month since we've seen just a quarter inch of rainfall, and you look elsewhere across the state, the picture does not get prettier. The far southeast struggling. Only folks that have gotten some relief lately has been the Oklahoma Panhandle. Right now, looking at temperatures 5 to 10 degrees above average, but there's cold front number 1 getting ready to roll through. That's going to help us out in the next couple of days. Got a few more cold fronts, some on the 7-day. I'm going to have all that coming up in just a few minutes.
Tragedy has struck in the India Himalayas. We have the details on the devastation left behind and the dozens of casualties after a monster avalanche.
Plus, over in Wisconsin, a sculpture of a U.S. senator has been unveiled, but it's not quite what you think. Find out what climate activists made this sculpture out of and why. All that and more when we come back.
Welcome back to OU Nightly. 5 people are hospitalized and 17 people still missing after an avalanche in the Himalayas. OU Nightly's Bailey Coyle has the latest on that and other headlines from around the world.
Yeah, Cameron, at least 10 people have died after an avalanche hit a group of mountaineers in the Indian Himalayas. According to the Nehru Mountaineer Institute, there were a total of 41 people who were caught in the incident. Of those 41 people, there were 34 trainers and 7 instructors. 14 have been rescued, 5 which are hospitalized. There are search and rescue operations currently happening for the 17 still missing. And the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Egypt, also known as COP27, will start on November 6th. And Buckingham Palace has confirmed that King Charles III will not be attending. This announcement was made after the Prime Minister advised the King not to go. Prince of Wales, Prince William, will also not be attending the conference, according to Kingston Palace. And over in Wisconsin, climate change activists revealed a life-size sculpture of U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, made of manure. The activists are supporters of a group called MoveOn.org and say the Republican has not helped Wisconsin communities that have been affected by climate change. The 2-term senator, who is running for a 3rd term, has said he does not believe in climate change. The Johnson campaign called this sculpture a BS political stunt. Cameron and Parker, I don't know about you, but I surely would not enjoy having a sculpture of me made out of manure.
You know, Bailey, I can't argue with you on that one.
I don't think I would either. All right. We all know it's OU Texas weekend, and we can feel the energy.
That's right, and another Red River tradition took place today. Stay tuned for an inside look at the running of the game ball. And I know a lot of us will be heading down to Dallas this weekend. I mean, I know I will be.
I will be too, and Colton's got everything we need to know weather-wise, plus everything those of you staying in Norman can expect this weekend. Colton?
That's right, whether you're hanging out in Norman or headed down to Dallas, I've got all the details coming up for you. Several rain chances and a couple cold fronts. That's coming up just on the other side of this break. All right, welcome back to OU Nightly. Thanks for joining us. I'm Colton Williams, taking a live look now at our campus cam here in Norman. Looking good out there here on your Wednesday afternoon. A couple clouds hanging out overhead. Had some cloud cover roll through this morning. Even some rain moved into the Oklahoma City metro earlier this morning. Very spotty. Rainfall totals were slim to none. Right now, lots of sunshine. Dew points are down. It's dry. They're right now sitting out, again, 5 to 10 degrees above average, but we've got a bit of a pattern change on the way. As we go throughout the next couple of days, that's going to start tonight as we're going to have a cold front that's arriving in the evening hours this evening, overnight tonight. That's going to help us give a northerly wind shift. Overnight tonight, fairly seasonal, lower 60s. We'll have northerly winds. Waking up tomorrow, again, temperature-wise, is going to be really similar. We're going to have a cooler north breeze. That's going to help us out, feel a little bit cooler tomorrow. A little bit of cloud cover hanging out, but again, temperature still hanging out above average. All right, and so there it is. That's cold front number 1 right now, sliding through Oklahoma as we speak. Folks in the Panhandles in the 60s and 70s. Right now, even bringing in a little bit of rain to some Oklahomans. A big area of rain going on now in the Texas Panhandle. This area has just been just as much drought-stricken as we have. All right, hopefully they would share a little bit of this with central Oklahoma. Unfortunately, it's really going to fizzle out by the time it makes it to the Oklahoma border. Some rain going on in northern Oklahoma now, north sides of Enid, moving over I-35 into Blackwell. A little bit heavier rain happening into this afternoon, back into the Oklahoma Panhandle. Overall, that's it for rainfall today. None here in the Oklahoma City metro. So again, that's cold front number 1 rolling through tonight. Very quickly behind it, tomorrow and into Friday evening, we're going to see cold front number 2. This one's going to be much stronger. I have a little bit of Canadian air coming here with this. Some morning lows in Oklahoma will be in the 40s coming up Saturday and Sunday morning. That's going to lock us into a more of a below average, near average, and hopefully a wetter pattern as we go into the next several days. All right, so tomorrow, scattered storm. I'm talking about just very, very scattered rainfall, 10% chance at best, but still some rain in southwestern Oklahoma. Friday, a little bit better chance in southwestern Oklahoma. Again, the metro, we're going to miss out on this one, unfortunately, throughout the next couple of days. So next week or so, we'll spend a couple days below average. We're going to return to just above average. Before then, just off our 7-day, there's a strong cold front. This one beginning to look quite a bit wetter as we go off our 7-day forecast period. And yeah, hopefully it's going to help us out in this region as well. Allergy's been at historic levels here, particularly that weed allergy, getting me as well as we go again the next couple days. All right, so your 7-day 80s for Thursday, 70s coming this weekend. Red River Showdown looks great. A couple rain chances back in the 80s by this time next week.
Thanks, Colton. And just like that, the OU Navy is on its way to Texas. Members of the OU ROTC programs gathered in the stadium today to send them off.
This morning marks the 25th anniversary of the university tradition to run the game ball down to the Cotton Bowl.
All the ROTC branches are here, but especially the Navy ROTC, engaging in this now 25-year tradition of carrying the ball from the Palace on the Prairie across the Red River all the way to the Cotton Bowl.
After ball handoff from OU head coach Brent Venables, Battalion Commander Jermaine Wells began to lead his team on their way down south. Even proud OU President Joseph Harris joined in on the action and ran the first 2 miles with Commander Wells.
It's a great tradition honoring the universities and most importantly our country.
Members of the OU Navy will run in 15-mile increments over the next 4 days on their way to Dallas. President Harris is proud of the university students and is hopeful for the Sooners during the rivalry game this Saturday. At the Palace, Jaden Brannon, OU Nightly.
Now, the Sooners are expected to cross the Red River tomorrow morning and will join the University of Texas Navy to run the game ball into the Cotton Bowl Saturday morning. Now, I tend to be more of a football fan, but Parker, I hear a record has been broken last night in the MLB.
Yeah, it sure was, and Sydney Bush has more on that in sports.
You've got that right, Cameron. After 61 years, a new king has been crowned in the American League. And it's Texas Takedown Week with the Sooners looking to get back their season on track. You'll want to stick around to hear what a pair of receivers have to say about Saturday's game. Hi, I'm Sydney Bush, and it's time for sports. The countdown is on for the Red River rivalry, and the big question is who will be starting QB this Saturday? Your guess is as good as mine because Coach Venables is keeping his lips sealed and practicing all 3 quarterbacks in anticipation of Texas. Possible starters are Davis Bevel, General Booty, and Nick Evers. Moving down the O-line, Sooner receivers Marvin Mims and Jalil Farouk are gearing up and getting excited for the big game.
The fans, the environment, it was just like, it was unbelievable. I never played in a game like this before. It's just like a blessing to be on that field at that time.
I mean, it's probably the wildest game ever playing. I mean, half orange, half crimson. You know, it's a great game, probably one of the hardest games you'll ever have to play in, like from a physical standpoint. You're gonna leave tired, dead, sweating, feel like you can't walk, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's gonna be the most fun you've had all year.
Riding high after a 3-0 sweep against the West Virginia Mountaineers last Saturday, OU volleyball is trekking to Texas to take on number 17 Baylor. The Sooners have a primetime spot airing tonight at 8 p.m. on ESPNU. The 2-time defending national champion Oklahoma softball team opened the fall season with a bang, dismantling Seminole State in a 10-inning 19-1 blowout. Up next is a series of intra-squad scrimmages called the Oklahoma Battle Series, happening every Wednesday in October at 6 p.m. And Tuesday night on the Diamond, a new single-season American League home run king was crowned. The Yankees' Aaron Judge just hit his record-breaking 62nd homer, 61 years after Roger Maris edged out of Babe Ruth to hold the record. After 2 long weeks chasing number 62, the Bronx Bomber was met on the field by his teammates to celebrate his historic victory. And today is legendary OU coach Barry Switzer's birthday. Parker, Cameron, I think I have a pretty good idea of what he's wishing for this year.
Oh, I do too. Thanks, Sydney. Well, a Guinness World Record was broken today, and you're not going to want to miss it.
Find out more about a rather large feline on the other side of the break.
I'm Sarah Sullivan at the OU Nightly Update Desk. The National Labor Relations Board has filed an accusation against Apple, claiming they discriminated against employees. According to the complaint, Apple would not allow union flyers on a break room table, but allowed other types of files. This came after charges filed by the Communications Workers of America. Cameron, Parker, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, a cat in Michigan named Fenrir has grown its way right into the record books. At 18.8 inches tall, the Guinness Book of World Records says he is the tallest living domestic cat in the world.
His human doctor, William Power, says despite Fenrir's size, he likes to be held like a baby. He says his fur babies make great therapy cats for his patients in his office.
Well, that's all we have for today. Thanks for watching OU Nightly. I'm Cameron Joyner.
And I'm Parker Abels. Be sure to tune in to OU Nightly tomorrow at 4:30. Good night.